Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Udwar Jagero, and this is Dialogues with Jagero. So, the truth of 2024 is that there are a lot of people who were once married but are saying that, okay, it's no longer working for me, it's no longer working for you. So, what should we do? And at the end of the day, some people just decide that, okay, enough is enough. I think that we can live happily, separately. Okay. So last year I did a podcast with a top Nairobi lawyer, Christine Muthoni. And Christine Muthoni's video has really gone viral on TikTok about her articulate explanation about on how to separate and to go your separate ways when marriage is no longer working. Now, a lot of people tend to fight when there is divorce. There is bitterness, there is anger. Some people don't want to leave, some want to leave, and so the children suffer, the relatives suffer, they suffer themselves. And so Christine is like, we should be able to uncouple consciously, like with respect, with love, just the same way we went into this with love. So I've decided to not to talk to Christine again, but this time around we want to cover a lot more. And we are going to be doing a series called Conscious Uncoupling. That is leaving each other and going your separate ways in peace, with the love for the children still intact, with the residue of love between the two of you. So Christine, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me here again. I didn't know that the first shooting we did would go viral like that. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I want to start this by going into the last time we did not talk about your own marriage.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But we want to sort of establish some social proof, your experience with it. And one of the things that I read your book, which is very good, by the way. Congratulations on bringing that book out.
Thank you.
The book starts with you driving and then stopping and crying in a car under a tree and looking back looking back at your marriage and how it has gone. And you cried and said that at that juncture you realized that there is no need to stay anymore.
Yeah.
The only way you are going to survive this is if you left and started your own life separately somewhere. So I know we've talked about this much. There's a lot with you, and there are people you want to respect in your marriage. There are people you want to respect, especially your family members, and you don't want to talk about people who have no platform like this to give their version of the story.
Yeah.
But tell me about yourself. Tell me about that day that you drove and stopped by the roadside and decided that this is not working for me anymore.
Well, my marriage had been good, like you'd expect. People marry because they're in love. They want to be together. So, of course, it was good while it was good. We were both happy for a couple of years until we were no longer happy. And that happens for various reasons. And that day I drove, it was Uhuru Gardens. That time Uhuru Gardens was still Uhuru Gardens. So you'd drive in and there was a field and you could park your car there and just sit. But I had just been asked for a divorce. My husband is the one who said he wants a divorce. And in as much as I had seen it coming, I was shocked. Nobody ever prepares you for that, you know, because you get married and you know it's for life. And no matter what happens, whatever problems we encounter, we will solve them. So me, when I got married, I was getting married for life. And I never foresaw a situation where my husband will tell me, I want a divorce. So, of course, I did resist because the day he said he wants a divorce, I remember it was very early on a Thursday morning. And we had had an argument the day before. Arguments were very common for us at that time because things had already started going downhill. But he had never said, I want a divorce. So when he said that, it hit me really hard, like it has come to this. And I thought he's talking out of anger. Maybe he didn't mean it. He doesn't mean it. Maybe it's something that we can resolve. And I told him, no, let's not talk about divorce right now. Can we talk about this tomorrow? And so the next day I reminded him, you said 1, 2, 3. Can we talk about this? And he said, no, I want a divorce. And I was preparing to go to work, because I was still in practice. I was dressed up and everything, and I was driving to the office, but I couldn't get to the office. I just felt overwhelmed, like, hata kama it's so bad. It has never been this bad, And we used to go to Huru Gardens. We used to take our children there for play dates. We also used to go for park and chill sometimes. And so I found myself driving into Huru Gardens, and I parked somewhere under a tree. And then the whole weight of it came upon me like a dark cloud, and I just cried. I cried, Jagero. I couldn't imagine, is this the end? That was the first time I had divorce, but I never accepted it in as much as I went and sat there and cried. I did go back and tell him, let's take a break from the marriage. Let's separate for a while. Maybe after the separation, emotions will settle. Whatever it is that we are facing, we'd been facing problems for a while. I would say years. We were not happy. It was so obvious. But you see, the way we think, marriage is hard, marriage is to persevere. We just thought that's normal until it gets to the point where one of you says, let me pull the plug. And that was it. When I told him, okay, let's take a break and then we can revisit this after some time. So the agreement was I would go and live with my brother. And while I was living with my brother is when I was now coming to terms with what was happening. And I took a solo vacation. That was my first solo vacation. I had never been to one before. I went to the coast for a whole 7 days, thinking about what had just happened, thinking about the plans that I had for our marriage, thinking about where did the rain start beating us, where did we go wrong, and the fact that we've reached here, is it salvageable? And I can say that was the moment in time when I realized I'm forcing issues. And in as much as I thought we'll just take a break and get back together, Christine, stop forcing issues. You're not happy. It's clear. And if he was to be asked, he's unhappy. And I don't want to say that he did anything wrong or I did anything wrong, but it's just, it happens that things stop working. Nobody divorces because they're so happy. No. It's one thing accumulates to another thing, accumulates to another thing. And due to the respect I have for my children and, of course, the other people whom you mentioned, I won't go into details, but let's just say that you may have a very good friendship, but at some point you grow to separate directions. And I figured the years that were good were good. Do we have to throw away everything because now we are not a good couple? No, we don't have to. I would like to have this man as a co-parent, and I would like him to be present for our children in as much as I want to be present. In fact, I don't want us to fight over the children. And I remembered a few years back, I had heard of the term conscious uncoupling. But I really didn't think much of it because, when something doesn't affect you, you don't even bother with it. I never imagined I would consciously uncouple. And I thought to myself, what was that? There must be a way where we can dissolve this marriage if it is what is causing us all these problems, all this chaos, all this unhappiness, but still maintain the good things that we have. We were running a company together. Of course, we have the children, and of course, we had a good friendship. Because by the time we were getting married, we were good friends.
And that is where I want to interject and take a little bit of step backwards. Because one of the things that people would want to learn about you is how you grew up. So you've started with the divorce part and going your separate ways. But let's talk about that young girl, Christine, the young girl. You remember yourself at 19 years, 20 years. Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Nairobi? Where did you go? You remember you told me that you had never thought about getting married.
Yeah.
And I want us to back up a little and talk about you growing up. You know, so did you grow up outside Nairobi? Did you grow up in Nairobi? What was your, tell me about your childhood, about your family, how many kids you are.
We are 5.
Yeah.
My parents, and I have 2 siblings, brothers. I'm the firstborn and only girl. And we grew up here in Nairobi. For the most part, we lived in Golf Course Phase 2. My brother and I went to Kilimani Primary School, and my other brother went to Gilgil Hills Academy. He was in boarding straight from primary school. We had a relatively good childhood. My parents were present for us. However, just like any family, we had some issues here and there. And eventually my parents separated. Although they separated when I was at Kenya School of Law. So throughout my childhood and my brother's childhood, we were living together with both parents. I was gonna study medicine. That was what I had chosen. But I missed by 2 points. And so I didn't know what to do next. My dad was really hands-on, and so he's the one who chose law for me. He told me, you can do law. Don't worry, even if you didn't make it for medicine, law is equally good. And so I went and started doing law at Nairobi University.
But you, as a person, because there is the law and then there is the medicine, what is it that you wanted to do for yourself? Like, as a young girl, what did you want to do?
Believe it or not, I wanted to be a teacher. Medicine never crossed my mind. In fact, I'm glad I didn't qualify for that because I cannot stand the sight of blood. And then I came to realize later that I'm an empath and I really feel other people's pain. So I think it just happened in a very nice way that I didn't end up there, because I think that would have been a degree I would have wasted. I would not have been comfortable there. Yeah, but my dad was and still is a medical doctor. And I think he felt that would be a good career path for me. My mom is a retired teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, but not in the conventional manner. I wanted to teach people more about life. And I'm seeing myself heading there because now I'm going to be teaching people about conscious uncoupling and coaching them when it comes to matters divorce. But when I went and did law, I ended up liking it. And I graduated in 2007. And I went to Kenya School of Law and got my postgrad diploma. And from there, I went and started working at Muro Mungai and Company Advocates just as a secondment while still waiting to be admitted to the bar. And what I found there, I thought law was so difficult because what I found there was they practice more of commercial law. And so I didn't feel like I fitted in there because things were so difficult. I think the Libra in me likes people, connecting with people. I love relationships. I love family, but I didn't get that exposure in that firm. But somehow I found my way to Barclays Bank Legal Department. And then I ended up at KCB again, Legal Department, until Consumer Credit. All that time I was married because I got married in 2011. And my marriage was good and it was going well. And we were blessed with 2 beautiful sons. One is 10 years now, the other one is 8 years. And everything was okay. Like it was a good life. It was a good life until 2015.
Yeah. You told me that you've never wanted to have a family.
Yes.
Not to get married.
Yeah.
Why was that in your head?
Because of the experience that my parents had.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, people don't separate because their marriage is so happy. They had problems in as much as they tried to protect us, the children, from those problems. It was so obvious. And eventually when they separated, I was left with this idea that marriage is so difficult. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if marriage is so difficult, why do people get married? Because you start out in love, you start out happy, everything is okay, you have problems here and there, you resolve the problems, and then you're back to being happy, and then again, more problems. And I thought to myself, why would I put myself through this? And so I told my parents, I'm never going to get married. It was a resolve, not because of, rebellion, because at that time, there was it was not so common for you to say, I'm not going to get married or I'll be child-free. It was expected of you that when you reach a certain age, you should be thinking about getting married and starting a family. And so me deciding I don't want to do that, I don't want to go through that route, was not rebellion. It was just, I don't think this is meant for me. That life is so hard. Why should I choose hardship intentionally?
Yeah.
And so, how I ended up getting married is a different story altogether.
Yes, you told me that story. I want to take you back. Everybody remembers how they met the man that finally wasn't the man. Sort of, for lack of a better word. Do you remember first meeting your husband? Do you remember what was happening? Was it a party? Was it a rurashio? Was it a wedding? Where did you meet this man? You told me that he was very, very handsome.
Yes, he is very handsome. We met, well, let me start from the beginning. He saw me in town.
Okay.
I was just walking in town. And
Walking
this is the
in
story.
town?
Yeah. CBD. This is the story he gave me later. And he saw me and he thought, oh, okay, that girl is beautiful. And so he followed me.
Wow.
And so I took a matatu and he took the same matatu.
Going nowhere.
I was going home.
He's going nowhere.
He was just following me.
Okay.
And so he sat behind me. He sat in the back bench. And I was on my phone. And he saw my fingers and my nails. And he thought, wow, they're so beautiful. I want to see the face of this lady. So where I alighted, he alighted too. And I walked. I was heading home. And he followed me. And I didn't know I was being followed. It sounds creepy, I know, but
Yeah.
It wasn't. At that time, he didn't come off as a creep. And so when I was almost at home, he said, excuse me. And I turned around and he said hi and he introduced himself. And then he asked me where he can get a chemist. And I directed him. There was a chemist nearby and he thanked me. And I had a flu. So I was blocked up and he asked if I'm okay. I told him, yeah, I'm okay. I just have a flu. He's like, can I bring you chicken soup later? And I was like, okay. Oh. But I said yes.
You did?
Yes, I said yes. He's like, okay, fine. Can I have your number? And I gave him my number. And that's how we met. But he never brought the chicken soup. He never brought the soup, but we ended up chatting. And
why did you ask him what happened to my chicken soup?
Yeah, I kept asking and he kept telling me, I'm gonna bring the soup. I'm going to bring the soup. But eventually when we got married, he made me a lot of chicken soup. So to compensate, even when I wasn't sick, he made sure he got me a lot of
chicken soup.
Yeah.
He was a lovely man.
He was, and he was very handsome. Like that time when I turned around, when he said, excuse me, and I turned around, I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I will not forget he had this black cape. And it was those days when that was the fashion. And he was tall. And I'm thinking, okay, this one, even if he asks for my number, I will not refuse. And I gave him the number. I used to have a fake number, which I would give to people I don't want to have my number.
You memorized it?
I'd memorized it.
The fake number?
Yes.
Why did you still look beautiful? How old are you now?
I'm 41.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
16.
So, thank
16,
you.
Brittle and biscuity. Okay.
Thank you.
I can imagine you at when were you meeting him, around 2026?
2008, 2007, around there, because I remember I hadn't started working. Yes, around 2008.
Okay.
So when he asked for my number, I couldn't remember the fake number that I used to give people. I just found myself giving him the real number. And I was like, it's okay. In
You
fact,
couldn't remember the fake number?
I couldn't remember it. I just gave him my real number and he did call and we chatted, and that's how our relationship started. Yeah, and turns out he was living in the neighborhood, so it was a coincidence. Yeah, it was a coincidence. So when I was better, he would call me and then we would meet hapo nje, because of course you don't want your parents to know where you're going.
Yeah.
And we go for a walk and we just talk. That's how we used to date those days.
Walk and talk.
Yeah, you just go for a walk. And
no milkshake.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
But
sometimes, eh?
yeah.
Girls of these days want new chick every weekend.
No, us, the beauty of it was we just hold hands, walk. Then you come back, he escorts you. And then,
leaves you by the doorstep.
Yeah, making sure your parents don't see you. That was it, basically.
Yeah, those were the old days, right?
Yeah.
And then you develop this beautiful relationship.
Yes. One thing I liked about him is he's a happy man. He's always smiling, even I think in his sleep. He would sleep with a smile. And I thought to myself, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to seeing people who are just happy from the inside. Not because something has made you happy. That's his default state. I was used to seriousness. Everybody is serious. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And I was drawn to that. And when I got to know his family, they were all like that. And they really embraced me. And his late dad used to say, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And anytime I went there, I was really celebrated. And I was drawn there. And how we ended up staying together, there was a problem at home. You know what happens when the parents are fighting and what have you. Sometimes the children get involved. And I had to flee at some point. But I didn't have anywhere to go. So he opened up his house for me. And I went there. I hadn't planned for us to start cohabiting, but circumstances led me there. And when I went there, not just him, but him and his entire family embraced me. And before I knew it, I was married because I was a Christian. I was born again. And I knew it's a sin to cohabit with somebody unless they're your husband. My mom actually inculcated that in me. Like, you cannot live with a man if he's not your spouse. And so from there, it's like, it happened like magic, Jagero. I can't tell you how I got married. I forgot about this resolve that I had of never getting married. And our families just planned the whole thing for us. Before I knew it, I had a destination wedding in Mombasa, and it was beautiful. And I thought to myself, my parents' marriage didn't work. I think I can make this work. No matter what happens, I will make this work. Because I've always been saying I'll not get married. And now here I am. So how can I get married and let this one fail? Failure is not an option. And so I worked on that marriage. I gave it my all. I gave it my everything, such that even when we had problems, nobody knew. Yeah.
If a young girl that is in the same position that you were came to you today and asked you that, I have problems at home, and I have this boyfriend who has got a beautiful house in Kilimani, and I think the best thing is to go and cohabitate with him. What would you tell that young person?
Please don't. Because most marriages that go downhill started wrong. They started on the wrong footing. You had no business being with this man in the first place, yeah? Because if she's going there because she's running away from problems at home, then she's going there out of desperation. She has not really thought about what she's getting into. Because marriage is supposed to be for life. You're coming together with a person who's grown up. You don't know how they were raised. And you're seeing this person as your savior. You're going there for refuge. But your mind will not tell you you're going there for refuge. Your mind will tell you, I'm so in love and, I'm 20, whatever. I'm almost reaching that age. It's okay. Let me get married. So I would tell her, don't do it. Solve the problems you have at home. Get married when you have intentionality. You've thought about what marriage is about, what it pertains. If you don't have to get married, don't do it, because you who's going there, you're going there because you don't have a choice. You're running away from something else. So most marriages don't go wrong. They start wrong. And I feel when I have been introspecting, I feel, yes, mine started wrong. Because I knew for a fact marriage is not my thing. But then I got married because I didn't think I had a choice at that time because of running away from the issues that were there at home. I really felt like this is the best thing for me to do. I have been embraced by this family. And after all, I love the man. And he's very, okay, I know I have said this severally. He's very handsome. We get married for such reasons. He's tall, he's handsome. You don't look at the personality of the person. You don't look at their upbringing. You don't look at, the things that matter. And so you've already gotten into the marriage for the wrong reasons, and you're trying to make something work that cannot work. Yeah.
2015.
Yes, 2015. I had my second born in 2015. And around that time is when I started feeling I can't fight for this marriage anymore, because I had given it everything. And I was drained. I was empty. I was depleted. And I had an idea that there's a way I can detach emotionally, but still be in the marriage to save face. Because, we fear, what will people say? Especially after you've had such a huge wedding and you've made people travel, to the beach.
You were supposed to, you told me how lavish it was. How lavish was it for the audience?
We were on Samantha Bridal. It was a beautiful beach wedding. And let's just say, I don't think we'd ever had a wedding like that in my family, my side of the family, even on his side of the family. We hadn't. So it was a very lavish wedding. And then there was also this issue of I got married knowing I didn't want to get married. So I have a point to prove. Yeah. So no matter how hard it gets, I'm sticking it out. So I stuck it out from 2011 to 2015. Then 2015, I felt... So I started detaching. Let me tell you something, Jagero. Women leave you before they leave you physically. We don't just get up.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on it?
Living is difficult. We are not designed to separate. Whether it is a marriage or it is a relationship, biologically, we are not designed to separate. We have this need to connect with people and to be there with them, So separating is like you're going against nature, and your body, there's a way it's going to respond by bringing back the hormones that made you attracted to this person. That's why you see people break up and get back together, break up and get back together. And so to avoid that roller coaster of emotions, what women do is you detach emotionally first. But you'll still be there, and it's like a pacifier, because you're still seeing him there, and society is still seeing you as an intact family, an intact couple. So we would go to church together, we would go for school events together, family events, everything. But you've started letting go. Like you're okay now. Even if he was to do what, you will not have sleepless nights about it. Yeah.
So that is what you mean by detachment.
Yes.
Not caring. What exactly? What are some of the things that you would do or think about that would explain the detachment issue?
Like for example, if he came home late at night, I would not bother to call. Like, where are you? Are you okay? What time are you coming? I will not wait up late for him to come home. I'll be okay. I'll just go to sleep and I'll sleep.
Now, I hope that you're enjoying this program. Over the last 15 years, I have been working online for clients in America, in Europe, and all over the world. And that is why it pains me a lot when I see a lot of African brothers and sisters saying that they do not have a job. Now, this is the problem. A lot of people are trying to look for a job in 2024 in their own town, in their own country, in their local area. Now, the truth is, there are no jobs in Africa, at least not so many jobs. The good news is that we have internet these days. We have a tablet, we have a computer, we have a phone, and that means that we can do a lot of jobs, and those jobs are online. That is why over the last 4 years, I've been writing a book that is called Digital Goldmine. It is a book that explains to you how you can earn money online. The 18 hustles that I've chosen are basically for Africans. Okay? Because what happens when you are doing online jobs is that payment is usually a problem. So these 18 side hustles that I have put together in this book, you can be paid very well and very conveniently. Okay? So The book is only 1,000 Kenya shillings. That is about $10. You can buy it in Kenya using paybill number. You can buy it online from anywhere in the world using a credit or a debit card. All the information about this book is in the description below. Just need to go to the description, click on the link, and you can buy this book. And if you have a brother, you have a wife, you have a husband, you have a friend who is sitting at home and watching Netflix, please do buy this book for them. If you are the one sitting at home and watching Netflix and have nothing to do, please buy this book and your life is gonna change forever.
You know, I will not be bothered to check his phone. You know, before you want to possess him, you want to own him, you want him to be yours. But when you detach, you don't care. You're like, it's fine. I don't want to know, and I'm okay with not knowing. You know, there's that one of, I don't want to know, but you're hurting, you're curious. Now this one is, I don't want to know, and I'm really not bothered. I'm not thinking about it. Or you would, when you're not detached, you want to know what he thinks about what you do. I want to change my career. I want to resign from the bank. I want to start practicing. You'll talk about these things. But when you're detached, you think about big decisions like this and you make them on your own. You know, it's Christmas. Are we going to your side of the family? Are we going to you don't care. You're like, it's okay, you go. Me, I'll be here. I don't mind spending Christmas alone. Or you make your own plans. Go do your own things. If it's about going out, you'll just come back home on a Friday after work, shower, dress up, and say, I have gone. You know, there's no for saying, oh, how do you feel about this? You know, I'll be with so and so. You can come, you can drop by. No, you just get up, go, come back whatever time you come back. That is how it is to be detached. You're just there physically, but you're not connected emotionally. You're going through the motions. Also, a wife is supposed to make sure that there is food at home. Okay, there is food, full stop. Nothing above and beyond that.
You said that you were drained. What was draining you?
Finances. I was completely drained. When I was employed by the bank, I had access to loans at a good rate as a member of staff. And so I had mentioned earlier that we had a company with my ex-husband. There are other businesses that we had together with him. And I had taken up a few facilities to finance the businesses. And they were not going well. They were not going well. I could not see where the money is going. I kept going back into my pocket for capital and also for expenses and all that. I could not see where the money is going. So we had a few small businesses that did not work. And then now we had the company. The company really drained me because at some point I even had to pay everything from pocket, from the rent of that office, to the equipment of that office, to the uniforms, to everything. And you see, when you're a couple, there's no for this is my money and this is your money. Yeah. So at some point I found myself doing so much that I was overwhelmed. We had to downgrade our lifestyle at some point, and we did. And at that time where I was working at the bank, I had reached the ceiling. Like I couldn't get promoted above and beyond that. So the only option I had was to resign from the bank and start practice. And when I practice, whatever money I make is dependent on my effort. Whatever money I make is dependent on my effort. So I could work and work and work. You know, I could become a workaholic and I could be able to keep up with the bills and expenses and all that. And that's how I ended up resigning from the bank and starting my own practice. So you can imagine, I've started a practice. I also need to pay my rent. I also need the overheads of my office, of his, and now there's no salary coming in every month. And I felt like he's not pushing his weight enough or as much as I would have wanted. I did understand him because I can see he's trying, but then I'm feeling frustrated, you know. There's that frustration of we shouldn't be here where we are, or where we were at that time. And it just drains the life out of you. I don't know how this will sound, but when a man does that, takes care of his family, he gets honor and he gets respect. But when a woman does that, she gets drained and overwhelmed. And when a man is in that position of receiving from his wife, he also gets to a point where he starts feeling emasculated, or some resentment starts growing. And when the wife is trying to tell him, I think we should do this, it will help our finances, it feels more like controlling or nagging. And that's why I would say, in retrospect, I had my faults, yeah, as to why the marriage did not work. I would say, yes, I was controlling, come to think of it. And sometimes they say that when a woman has that upper hand in the marriage, she becomes disrespectful. I don't think I became disrespectful, but I wouldn't speak for him. I don't know how he felt, because we've never actually had a sit down to say what went wrong. You know, the moment I was told I want a divorce, that was it. So yeah, that is how I felt, overwhelmed and exhausted and depleted. And I think I sort of withdrew further into my cocoon. Already 2015, I had detached emotionally, but I'm still in the marriage. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, I think now he had already started feeling the...
That is a presidential term.
What?
That's a presidential term of detachment.
I don't know what you mean by that.
5 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Presidential term. Yes.
That's a long time.
It's a long time, and we could still go for vacations and have beautiful photos and, you know, put them on social media, but you don't know what is going on in the background. So within those 5 years, I think he felt a change. Like, what's going on? Christine does not beg me the way she used to beg. She doesn't plead. She doesn't care what I do, whether I'm going to work or not. So he also felt it, and I think he started feeling maybe neglected, or I don't know. Let me not say what he felt, but by the time he was saying, I want a divorce, I think he felt he's better off separated. You know, you can be with someone, you're not fighting, you're not arguing, but you're feeling, I don't know how to put it, but they're there, but they're not there. So why are they there? You know, their presence also makes you feel it's better if you are not there.
You know, something that has struck me with your explanation of when you're talking about you're wondering whether you are controlling, you're wondering whether you are disrespectful. I actually had a marriage. Before this conversation that I talked with a marriage counselor over the weekend, and she was telling me that a woman will appear disrespectful or will appear as if she's controlling because, and this is usually the feeling of the man. You are telling him that we can take this direction. We can make money better this way. You know, like they were giving an example that the husband was in a business where they could run their own business. But instead they decided to be taking that small money from the employer, saying that you have all these contacts. Why don't you start your own? Because people that you've trained have started their own. Why are you stuck, just with a small thing of traveling? So it excites you and things like that. So I believe that it is very, very difficult, and nobody teaches us how to start managing a partner that is not on the right direction. And I think for us men, it can be when a woman starts telling you things, you know, there is that ego that is bruised. There is that, and sometimes I think also men are frustrated. They don't know how to do it, but I feel like we are not humble enough to speak about those issues that we are having with our partners, the people that truly love us. So, for example, like my wife asked me a lot of questions about, for example, when I started this podcast, is it passion? Is it business? What is it? You see? So I think as a man, the wife might be just trying to really understand your headspace. What are you doing with everything that you're doing? Okay. So I think that sometimes we're just being humble enough. I've realized that 2024 is really, really hard. and the last decade. It's very, very difficult for couples because there is a lot of pressure. You go to a party, people are asking where your kids are going to school,
Yes.
they're asking where you are working, and I can imagine when you go to a party with your wife and they're asking your husband what they are doing,
Yeah.
and they and all you know is that they're watching Netflix at home. That can be very stressful for anybody. You see, just the way we have been socialized, that men are supposed to be out there, we are supposed to be in the field, making things for ourselves. So it looks like you are also under what they call financial abuse.
Yes, there was a lot of financial abuse. And at that time, I didn't even know what financial abuse is. I got to know about that much later. And I realized, oh, you feel a bit vindicated. It's not like, I just acted, I don't know, I didn't support my husband or I didn't want. There was a level of abuse there. And one abuse is always accompanied by another. Anytime you find there's financial abuse, if you look closely, you'll find there's also emotional abuse. And emotional abuse does not have to be, a man coming to insult you. It could also be just him giving you silent treatment. Yeah? Making you really think deep about where did I go wrong? What have I gone wrong? Walking on eggshells in your own marriage. Being unable to communicate. And communication, by the way, when you have no communication in a marriage, that's a deal breaker.
What is communication to you?
Communication is speaking to each other in a manner that you understand each other. Because I may be speaking to you, but you're not understanding me. So we are not communicating. That's like, there's a phrase I like using. You can be speaking caterpillar language to a butterfly. There is no communication there. So I would come and tell you, I think we should do 1, 2, 3 business-wise to lift this company. And I'm coming from a good place, but you feel like I'm nagging and controlling. You see, we are not on the same page there. So we are not communicating. Yeah. And also when there is emotional abuse, people are not able to have difficult conversations. We avoid having difficult conversations. I can't come and tell you, Jagero, I don't like it when you do 1, 2, 3, because I fear hurting you. And in as much as I'm protecting your feelings, I'm not doing justice to our relationship, because then I will keep quiet with that thing that I don't like you doing, and you keep on doing it because you don't know it's hurting me, because I'm afraid of having a difficult conversation, and then it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. And some of us are people pleasers. We don't know how to stand up for ourselves. So in as much as you want to communicate, there is some coping mechanisms you've acquired as you're growing up that make you not communicate. You'll just keep quiet and think that the silence will communicate. But that silence becomes silent treatment, which becomes a form of emotional abuse. So there's no communication there. How will you solve your problems? You won't. Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit to the divorce itself. How does it start playing out?
When I was asked for a divorce, it wasn't like, I'm divorcing you. You don't need to ask for permission to divorce someone. If you want out, you just file for a divorce and you get it. But when he said, I think it's time we went our separate ways, I want a divorce, I took it as a cry for help. I really didn't take it seriously. In as much as I was shocked because that word had never been used in our marriage before, I took it as a cry for help and I refused. And I said, no, let's take a break instead. And even after the break, let's give it 1 year. Because I remember that was 2019, December. I said, I will not file for a divorce until 2020, December. And the reason why I was to file is because we had agreed, since I am a lawyer, it would be better if I filed as the petitioner because I can mitigate everything, I wouldn't make it very ugly and you wouldn't have to spend money on a lawyer and all that. I will file after 1 year. Why I was giving it 1 year is because I thought whatever it is, time and space will resolve it, yeah? But when I took my break and I went to live with my brother, and then I had all this, I did a lot of introspection. And I thought about, it was like, I don't even know how to explain. It's like my eyes opened. You know, sometimes when you have a problem and you're so close to it, you cannot see it. But when you take a step back, then you can see things clearly. So I got clarity and I realized, no, I'm forcing issues and we are better off apart. However, what's going to happen to our children? Because I don't want to put them through what I went through with my brothers when my parents separated. There's a way children are really affected, yeah? They're really affected. Fine, if the marriage is dysfunctional or toxic, they are still affected. But also when you separate, there's a way you can separate in a way that they're traumatized as much as you, the couple. And I thought, if there's a way we can separate and minimize the trauma for the children, because I want to protect them from what I went through and what I see my clients' children going through. And so I thought, let me go back. Because we were still in talking terms, yeah? So I call him and we sit down and we talk, and I tell him, I have this idea. I know you're very unhappy in this marriage, and I am also equally unhappy. This is a very civil way, Jagero. The words were very different from that.
Yes.
You can imagine how that language was. So if this marriage is the cause,
Maintain what?
our children, let's co-parent. Let's not fight over the children. Let's not fight each other. Let's not dissolve our company. And also our extended family. Let's not create enemies. Set up camps, your camp on that side, my camp on this side, and our work is to hate each other. You know, when we got married, we brought together 2 families. And they said, okay, this is a person you've told us you want. Yeah, okay. They had no choice but to love the other family. Now, when we start fighting, they'll also become enemies. Like my brother will meet his brother on the street and they'll just pass each other, you know. So I didn't even have that word conscious uncoupling in my mind. And I just thought we can do this in a peaceful and amicable way. And he said yes. And we tried for a while. Actually, he had custody of the children. I would go visit. And I would still do the things I used to do in the house for the financial bit to make sure they were comfortable. But that went on just for a few months. And then things again crashed. I think I mentioned that when he asked for a divorce, I took it like a cry for help. I did not think he was serious. And so he was wondering why I'm not coming to, you know, beg. Can we get back together? Because I had already done my introspection and I thought, okay, let me release it. So he was not ready for what happened. I don't think he was. And so now there was a bit of friction where perhaps he didn't communicate his expectations. And I too did not communicate that I'm done, but being done with this marriage doesn't mean we are enemies. We can still work around it this way. Let's just say communication was a big problem for us, because even at that period, we could block each other, unblock each other. Today we are talking, tomorrow we are not. And then I decided I can't live like this anymore. And that's when I filed for the divorce. I filed for it and I thought it will proceed the way we had agreed, but it didn't. When I filed, I think I forgot to mention that it's fault-based, so there are some things I will write there so that we can convince the court that our marriage is not working. And he took it personally, and so he responded.
So you were supposed to, you were writing these things just to make it easier for the court.
Yes.
But then he was like, why are you writing this? This is not what it is.
Yes. Because at that point now, when I was giving up and saying, okay, fine, I will not even wait for that 1 year, let me file, I had given up on the trying. This, what I thought was a cry for help, now I can see maybe it wasn't. So let me just give him what he wants. So I did it because this is what the law states, the Marriage Act, and I have to prove fault and all that. You don't need to defend yourself. We'll get the divorce. But at that time, we were not talking. We were at the point of we've blocked each other. So I filed. He served. I had a lawyer at that time. He served, and the first thing the reaction that comes naturally is to get defensive. And so had he probably not been defensive, the divorce would have been quite smooth. But then he went and responded. And now the response made me think, wow, this is what he thinks of me after I have been so cordial and everything. And so at some point, while we had already filed for the divorce, he relinquished custody of the children back to me. And again, that brought issues as well, because apparently he was not giving custody to me. He was bringing them for a visit and I didn't give them back to him. Let's just say a big mess, which we will not go into details. And eventually we got our decree.
Decree means?
Now you're divorced. You're officially divorced. It's what you use when you want to show I am divorced. I am no longer married. Because you see, if you are married in...
And there are places that you need to show that you're no longer married.
Yes.
Like
maybe if you're applying for a visa somewhere and you have to state you're single. How are you single? Were you divorced or were you never married? So you show them the decree. Or if you go abroad and you want to marry someone there, they'll ask for a certificate of no impediment. They'll ask for a certificate of no impediment. Use that to get that certificate.
Is it like a certificate?
Yeah, it is.
Certificate of divorce?
Yes. There's the nisi and the absolute. It's just like a paper, but the seal of the court is what makes it the certificate.
The nisi and the absolute?
Yes.
What is the difference between the two?
Nisi is temporary because we've seen people going through the whole divorce process and then you get back together. So nisi gives you a chance to go back to your spouse before you get the absolute. Absolute normally is given, depending on the circumstances of the divorce, between 30 to 90 days after the nisi, you get the absolute. Within that period, you can get back together if you want. But if you're sure you don't want to get back together, then you get the absolute and now you're done. You can't get back together unless now you go through the whole marriage process again.
You go to the AG and you will have
another marriage certificate with your witnesses and all that. Yeah. So we got our decrees and it was over. But I usually say that divorce is a process. It is not an event. Getting that certificate is not it. It's the emotions you go through. The emotions, the time when you are deciding whether to do it, the fights you have during the process, the grieving, and it can even go on years after you have actually gotten your decree. That's how it was for me.
Amazing story. Yeah. I am happy that you're now happy. Are you happy now?
Yes, I am. I couldn't talk about this before. I couldn't. It was so difficult, but it comes to a point where you resolve everything within you. You take responsibility for your part. You stop the blame games, and then you put yourself in the shoes of the other person and try to see what it is that they're going through. And then you extend grace to them. And when you do that, you're setting the ground for healing. And it's very personal. It's so personal that nobody can help you do that. Yes, you can see a therapist. You can see whoever you need to see. But it starts within. Time does not heal. You have to be intentional and deliberate. Because I've seen people divorced 10 years, but they're still so bitter and so angry about what was done to them because they feel like it was done to them. They don't feel like they had...
Was it not done to them?
No, nobody did anything to you. It's just they communicated and then you had to make a choice out of their communication. Or it unfolded organically. It gets to a point where if it's not working, Jagera, it's not working. You can't come and say, you have left me, you have divorced me, you have hurt me. No. We have lived together happily up to this point. Whatever happened, happened. We grew separate. We grew to different directions.
I don't know if you've thought about this, Christine. It's a very difficult question. And it goes directly to our religion. You say that you're a born-again Christian.
I was.
You were?
Yes.
Why did you leave the Lord?
I couldn't understand Christianity. Christianity was something that I did because I was born a Christian. I was raised in a Christian family. And so I knew these are the rules of Christianity. You cannot live with a man if you're not married. So I get married. You cannot do 1, 2, 3. So I follow the rules of how I have been raised. But when I was a grown-up, past 28 years, because they say your brain develops until you're 28. So after 28, you start asking questions and you don't get answers. And when you don't get answers, then you're believing in something that you don't understand. And so I had to make up my mind. Am I going to keep on believing in something I don't understand? Or am I going to transcend it and see what else lies beyond? And that really helped me be able to come to terms with what was happening. Because I can tell you, had I remained a Christian, I would still be there fighting for that marriage because God hates divorce.
And that was the question that was coming next. If you had said that you're still a Christian,
Yeah.
I would have confronted you that question. That God hates divorce.
Yeah.
And I think that statement has. I spoke to a lady that told me that she was repeatedly raped in her marriage by the husband. First of all, I didn't understand how rape happens in marriage until she explicitly explained what was exactly happening. And in my head, I came to understand that was not really love making. That was something else. And the word is marital rape. And she told me how she kept going to church and the church kept telling her that it is the woman that keeps her house.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So, what did Christians say when you divorced? Both sides are Christians. What did they say when you divorced? They said,
Well, I was told that it was my responsibility to make my house stand. That if this marriage collapsed, it was my fault. That it failed because of me. A woman built her house with her hands and destroys it with her hands. So people kept telling me, go and apologize to him. And I'm thinking, apologize for what? I don't even understand what I did wrong, you know? I can't even communicate. I'm blocked. There's no communication. And there's some stigma there that comes about because of your faith and the circle of, your religious circle. But the good thing is that I can say I was lucky because I had already left the church while in the marriage. When I was detaching, I detached from not just the relationship that was not working, but everything that was not working for me. You have to get to a point where you're independent-minded. You have to think, what is in my best interest and to get myself there, and then you have to do it. Because if you listen to people, you will not move. You will stay there. You will die inside. Do you know you can die while you're still alive? You're walking around looking like a shell of your former self because you have no spirit. The spirit in you is gone. You're just a zombie in that marriage. So I had left the church while I was still in the marriage. We used to have marriage enrichment. Marriage enrichment is whereby couples who were married at the same time in the same church would be put in groups, and you're supposed to have monthly meetings where you meet like 5 couples in your group and talk about your marriage. And if you have problems, you can invite your pastor to come and help you resolve those issues. I just stopped going for marriage enrichment. First, I stopped going to church. My ex-husband still used to go to church. And he would ask why I don't want to go. And I would tell him about the things that I'm going through. I think I was going through a time of awakening of sorts. And so I would just allow him. I will wake up, prepare the kids, and he will go with them. They'll come back home. I've made lunch. Life goes on. And then he, at some point, also got tired and stopped going to church. It's not easy to go to church as a man with 2 toddlers. But for him, it wasn't because of anything spiritual, awakening or anything. It was just, it's a bit inconvenient. Then I stopped going for the marriage enrichment groups, and he couldn't go alone because it's a couple thing. So of course the group started asking, what's happening? Why aren't you people coming for this? We have a leader in the group. And I remember the leader asked me, whatever is happening, I hope you have not become a devil worshipper. Those were his words. And I'm like, okay, so if you're not going to church, automatically you're a devil worshipper. And that's where the stigma started. They were going to report us. I don't know how we would be reported to the pastor that our marriage is not working because we're not going for self. But I was like, it's okay. When it came to family, of course, I did bear the brunt from family. And I was told the reason why things are not working is because God is not in the center of your marriage, and it is you to bring him to the center of the marriage. Okay? But by the time we were divorcing, I didn't tell anybody. I was silent for about a year. People did not know we divorced until like a year after. So I protected myself from that stigma. So I actually even did wear my ring for quite some time, even after the divorce. And people now start picking hints bit by bit. And then the ones who have courage will come and ask you. And then now you tell them, and then word spreads. But I think I handled it well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was the first episode, giving us who Christine is, your story, and thank you very much for being bold enough to tell the world your story. I usually do not take it for granted that people can come to Dialogues with Jagero and really, really tell their story. And what I've realized that when you tell your story, a lot of people out there listen to your story, and a lot of people, some people will judge you, some people will say, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. I am in marriage, and what that lady is talking about is exactly where I am at. So thank you very much. That is episode 1 of Conscious Uncoupling. We are going into episode 2. We will go to episode 2, where we are now going to introduce us to the topic of conscious uncoupling. Sindio?
Yes.
So thank you very much, people of the internet. That was Christine Muthoni. We are going to be doing a beautiful, beautiful series called Conscious Uncoupling. And now that you've heard from Christine, her story, her marriage, her divorce, I hope that you're going to like this episode. So I hope that you please leave a comment if you want to ask a question. Christine is a divorce lawyer right now, and she helps people that are saying enough is enough. How can I decide? How can I start my journey of going my separate way? So in the episode 2, we are going to also be talking about her book, which she has written, called Conscious Uncoupling. We are going to discuss that, and we are going to expound on what exactly is conscious uncoupling. So please, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Leave a comment, hit on that notification bell. And until episode 2, bye for now.